Okay, for those of you who are watching and want to learn how to have the best marriage ever or the best relationship ever, we're in for a treat. We have Dr. Doug Miller and his wife, Elicia Miller. Both of them are very, they walk the walk and they talk the talk. Is that how we're going to say it? Is that how, okay, we'll say it that way.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And so today we're going to learn how to deal with the child within so that that child will get out of the way and you can have a better relationship. So fasten your seatbelt. We're going to learn and grow together. How much time do we have, Brian? I don't hear the music. Oh, and by the way, once the music starts, you got to dance.
I'll be right here waiting.
Doug, I knew you'd be a crazy dancer. Show me your crazy moves.
Need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out
the
to
music
Lillian,
had been
visit
going
her
on
on
the
the
web.
web.
There you go. Now you're going into it. Here we go.
Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian McDermott radio show, the purpose of the show is to provide a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, we're in for a treat because we're going to do something different. You know, when you are in a relationship, you bring a wounded child into that relationship. There are times when our relationships are created to fill a void in our childhood. Think about that. And there are times where we resort to those childhood ways to deal with that relationship. And it might be that you're not arguing with that individual about that silly thing, but that the child within you is defending itself from a perpetrator many years ago, from an unresolved, unfulfilled desire that you have. It's amazing. It's not just two people in the relationship. It could be 20. You just never know. Because of all the things that we carry, the suitcase, the luggage that we have when we enter into any relationship. Today, we're talking about the relationship between a couple. Not necessarily friends, but I think you can, hopefully you are a friend with your spouse or the relationship that you have. But what we want to create and what we're going to be talking about is how to feel whole. Because when you do feel whole, then that child within can take a little back seat. You can work with that child to be a little bit playful in the relationship as opposed to throwing a tantrum in the relationship. So today we have relationships expert. So we have Elicia Miller. She is the founder of Core Emotional Healing and licensed clinical transpersonal, I think I got it, psychologist, Dr. Doug Miller. And they will share how we can begin the process and healing this child, this wounded child within us, so that we can achieve the relationship of our dreams. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Doug and Elicia Miller are with us today. Welcome to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
It's great to be here.
Thank you, Lillian. Thanks, and hi to everyone listening.
Yes, absolutely. The most beautiful couple that you'll see. It's I met Elicia and Doug in Georgia when I went to do a television show with Tim Ray, who is my partner in truth at Integrated Seniors on Saturdays on WBOB. And so today, I am grateful to say that because of that relationship, I met Dr. Miller and Elicia, and I am just really excited to have this conversation. I don't think we've ever had this. So, Elicia, let's start with you. Share a little bit about your background and what led you to your passion for healing relationships.
Oh, well, my background was a lot of dysfunctional relationships. So
Okay.
that led me to healing myself first.
Mhm.
And a lot of the healing first before I entered into a more conscious relationship with Doug. And I created a healing system called Core Emotional Healing that addresses the core wounds from childhood and the patterns that form from that affect us in the present day. And I healed myself fully from chronic digestive issues, gluten intolerance, dairy, systemic candida, eating disorders, addictions, and dysfunctional relationship patterns by doing that process on myself. And so that's kind of the root of a lot of things that people are trying to address through diet and treatments or therapy, and they don't get to the full patterns that and wounds that we all carry from, that wounded child. So once I did that, I did heal fully from all of the chronic physical symptoms and eating disorders and emotional eating that I thought I would never go away. And then I met Doug 3 months later.
Ta-da!
Yes.
And your life has just expanded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Doug, you want to share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I'll leave kind of the professional stuff, try to speak personally. I grew up my parents divorced when I was 5, and
you know what? I tell you what.
we're running out of time.
You know what I want? You know what I'm going to do? Let's bring Doug back in when we return, because I have a feeling we're going to go deeper right away. And we're going to continue our conversation with Elicia and Doug Miller.
Great idea.
When we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. I mean, you two have your own show. You know what it's like to have a hard break. So thank you for understanding. It's like I saw 1 minute and I thought, okay, we got 1 minute. So Doug?
Yeah.
I think
This is better. Thanks.
Yeah. I don't want you to rush. Thank you for seeing the cues. So, Elicia, you talk about all the dysfunctions that you experience, but there was one root cause. Is that what you're saying?
There was a root, not pinpointing on the one root, but there was the wounded child was a root of all of them. Yeah,
but that was the root cause.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about being healed, but do you ever get out of remission? depending on what's going on in your life.
Well, she took the pizza test recently.
Well, it depends. Being healed in terms of what, though?
Oh, what I'm talking about is that we can say we're healed from cancer, we're healed from this, or we're healed from that. But then what the allopathic community will say is, oh, no, you're in remission. You're in remission. And so when you think of being healed from all these dysfunctions, are there times where that child is triggered?
So I'm fully healed from all the chronic physical symptoms and emotional eating because I learned how to take care of my emotional needs and my emotions. So I'm regulated in that. So I don't use like food and other things to numb or dissociate.
Or react.
Yeah.
Sort of with these allergics, quote.
Right.
Just negative
because
ways.
I feel my emotions and I take care of them. But I'm still healing from childhood wounds through our relationship and other things in life. Triggers.
Got it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. I just wanted to ask that because you had mentioned that when you had healed from these eating disorders and all of that, and 3 months later you met Doug. That's kind of quick.
Yeah.
To be healed and then go into a relationship.
I helped my inner child feel lovable. And
we did more healing in the relationship.
And then we did a lot.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, let's go back to the
I'll be right here waiting for you.
There you go.
You can text Lillian
That's how
McDermott
you
or
do
leave
it.
her a voicemail at 407-373-5959.
We gotta get together and go dance.
Once again,
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. And today's teachers are Dr. Doug Miller and Elicia Miller. And Elicia has developed a system that helps heal the wounded child. It's called core emotional healing. And that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to add her husband to the mix. It's Dr. Doug Miller. And share a little bit about your background. You said you were going to start with your childhood.
Yeah. My parents were divorced when I was 5. There wasn't a lot of processing around it. My mom married an alcoholic when I was 8, and it wasn't horribly abusive, but he was very negative and unhappy man, and sort of emotionally messed up. And then I felt kind of alone in the world, even in that family. And actually, when I was 14, I got a calling towards psychology, and I think there was something wanting to figure it all out and live a decent life. And like I said, I'm going to skip kind of the academic stuff and got into different relationships. I feel like I had a long-term marriage, but I was reliving some of the things that weren't fulfilling to me, and sort of had the wisdom to mess that up unconsciously, you know. And then was in some other relationships, and then came to Elicia. Now, we'll talk about my inner child work, etc. And we were beginning to talk about how Elicia and I went through a lot of healing together in a very intense way. After about 6 months in, for about a year and a half, where we healed a lot more. But that's part of the larger story. But I've had lots of therapy and all that, and maybe we'll bring some of that up. So.
Yeah, sure. Well, not only you've received it, but you've also given it. So
lots and lots and lots.
And you know, they say that the best advice that you can receive is the one you give, right? So
it's sometimes the hardest.
Yes, exactly. So let's go back to Elicia. Elicia, you had it sounds like a very tough road as a child.
Yes.
Which led to
and as an adult.
And as an adult. Is there anything like you'd like to share? Is there anything you want to share about that?
Just the childhood was very emotionally kind of abusive and neglectful.
Okay.
And I had a rageaholic father. My mom was shut down, and my brother and I were pretty alone in it all. And I'm very sensitive and empathic. So I took on a lot from that and didn't know what to do with it, and developed all kinds of ways to protect myself from the pain, where everything was great. I was, perfect, and I did everything perfect, and I looked perfect, and I was successful. And, I went into sales, and I was, top performer in a very large company. And so I was overcompensating for that wounded child, trying to prove my worth and that I was lovable. And I was totally unconscious throughout my entire 20s in doing that. And I was going out and partying and choosing guys like my father, and, over and over and over, until it was the worst one to wake me up. And I ran off to Vegas after 2 weeks of being together, after I broke off an engagement to someone else immediately. And then it was the most abusive relationship of my life. And so I was in it for 3 months, and then I got really scary. So I left, and I was 30 years old. And I decided at that point that it must be something within me that I was, choosing these men. It was one of those clarity moments where I said, something's making me do this, and I need help, and I need something beyond therapy. And I just knew it. And I chose a more subconscious experiential course. And it woke me up so much that I just never stopped. I said, what else don't I know?
Yeah. That's exactly right. Once you say yes to learning as a student, the teacher does appear.
Yes.
And so in your journeys and in your travels of discovering this wounded child, let's talk about the wounded child. You and I talk the same language, Doug. We when all four of us, Robert, my husband, and of course Tim was there, and all of us, we had a wonderful conversation.
It was so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, and we speak pretty much the same language, but for someone going, what is a wounded child? So explain, which one of you would like to explain?
We'll probably go back and forth. We got even clearer yesterday. We talked about all this and thought about how we might talk about it a little bit.
Okay. So go ahead, Doug, since you're speaking, we start with you, with the wounded child.
Well, the wounded child, it's the part of us that has gone through all the difficult things in our life. And I don't think we can talk about the wounded child. Now, that's kind of easy to get, the ways we've been hurt, the ways we've been neglected, the ways we've been ignored. And one of the important things we want to emphasize is there's usually lots of emotions that didn't get processed, because it's like our culture is in this pattern of avoiding emotional stuff. And
Sure.
Parents often don't say, oh, how did that hurt you? Let's work this through. I think our culture is beginning to learn that. But a part of the wounded child is also the adaptive child. And what that is how we've learned to cope with those things that have happened and learn to protect ourselves so that we don't relive them. So some of the things are so hurtful, and it could be like an overt trauma, like physical abuse or being yelled at or being demeaned, or it can be these subtle looks or neglects when the parent turns away, when certain sets of emotions. So then you have the wounds, which is kind of the deeper part, and then you have this adaptive part, which is more of the defended and protected part that's actually trying to help avoid those same woundings. And that's when we start depriving ourselves of a real connection.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Elicia. Why don't you add to what Doug just said?
Right, and that was excellent. And the wounded child also has all these beliefs, so it's a false sense of self. So the limiting beliefs are formed based on what was happening to us as children. Like, I'm not lovable, I don't matter, my feelings don't matter, I'm not good enough. And then that's where the compensations or the overcompensations. Well, in order to feel good enough, I have to do this, or I have to prove that I'm okay, or that love isn't safe, love is scary. So, I must protect, as Doug was just saying. So that's where the beliefs and then the protections and the adaptations. So it's like you become someone completely different. And so in healing the wounded child, those false sense of selves and ways of relating to ourselves, the world, and others can fall away in the healing process. And people and myself, I've lived many lives, I feel, in this lifetime because of so many identities and ways I was not authentically me, fell away.
Okay.
So
go ahead, Doug.
I think it's important. One thing that a lot of people don't get, a lot of adults don't really, they hear the term inner child. I don't know if you're coming up, do you want to wait on that, or you want to?
No, keep going.
So this show's about the inner child, and Alicia's has done the most powerful and direct work with the inner child that I've seen. So I was doing inner child work 25 years ago when John Bradshaw was on the scene in the 90s. And I would sit in a bed at the bottom of my closet because I felt safe and cozy. And when I was a kid, I would go to the top of the linen closet and hide. And I remember no one could ever find me there. It was warm and there was smelly, sweet towels up there. And really, it was like my safe place. So as an adult and doing inner child work, I would go back there to that space. But all I was doing was really feeling a lot. Sometimes I would just feel things. I had no idea where they came from. That was one type of inner child work. But let's talk about what the inner child. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's. Doug and Elicia, they have their own show, so they're used to. They're used to. doing this, but I have questions. I have questions. Okay.
Oh, you're here too?
I'm
Okay.
here too. Okay. So
we just love the inner child so much. We want to keep talking
Yeah,
about
we do. We talk.
I just want to get to this place
Thank you, Lillian.
about the inner child. You know, I still want to make sure that people understand that this is the person that we bring within us, that we are so unaware exists in us, and that this is the one that's reacting to whatever is happening. So if we are an overreactive individual, what does that say about the child? Can you address that, Elicia?
Sure, yes. It means the child is scared.
Okay.
It means the child has fears. It means the child doesn't want to be found out or hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
So the reactivity comes from, the protections.
Okay.
The way we protect ourselves from not being hurt again.
Correct. And so now I have, back in 2015, I met a woman called Dr. Margaret Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard any of her work. She has inner bonding for emotional health. So have you, Elicia, as when you were going through your realization of, I'm bringing myself to every relationship, and we talk about on the Lillian McDermott radio show, we talk about taking ownership and responsibility for our life. Was there one thing that you did to stop you in your tracks and say, I recognize this as a me that I want to fix, a me that I want to heal? What was it that went through your mind when you started discovering this new you that has been driving you around?
I had a process over 7 years. So it was just a continual process of seeing what was happening with me. And I think during those 7 years, I had touched on my inner child, but I didn't have a consistent connection with my emotions. And I think that was the missing piece.
Okay.
And when I got into another relationship 7 years later, after being single, after that marriage, I got into the same pattern, and I wasn't getting my needs met. And then that's when my symptoms came back. That was kind of this is emotional, and I didn't get it yet. And then I saw someone who confirmed it was my emotional. She saw my inner child knocking to come out. Janet Rafta, she's a brilliant energy healer and psychic medium. And so that's when I realized I needed to help my inner child feel lovable and good enough, and that I deserve to be supported and loved in a whole different way than what I knew at that point.
Okay, so great. I just wanted to make sure, that people, it's just about becoming real with themselves, but it's more than just becoming real. I talk about a soul shovel on the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we dig until you only find truth. But with you, Doug, and we only have a minute left on this segment, when you are now thinking 20 years ago you did this work, now you meet Elicia, and she's like in the process of all this healing. Did it remind you of the child that maybe you hadn't healed?
Yes, what Elicia brought to the work is sort of a reparenting, a direct and much like a deeper, clearer contact that I participated in. She started showing me. Okay. And so I would start giving myself messages, like maybe when I was triggered in our relationship, and that helped.
Okay, very good. And we're going to continue our conversation with Doug and Elicia Miller when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay, so I just had to get to this child because remember, you and I speak the same language.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But someone's going, inner child, the what? What the what? So when it comes to that inner child, with Robert and I, one of the things that we discovered is that when our patterns of arguing became attacking or became spiraling downward, we would take a time out and we'd say, but we didn't call it my inner child wants to take off and your inner child as being a jerk. No, we didn't say that. Right. We just acted like a child.
Yeah,
Right.
that's it. Right.
But how do you, okay, so since we're off the air, let's get to that. How do you call the time out when you're a kid, when you're acting like a child?
There has to be like enough
agreement.
awareness just to do that part to start, because if you stay engaged, it just gets worse, and it gets so painful, right?
Yeah.
It just gets worse.
Yeah.
So there has to be some awareness. Now, the ultimate state of that is being able to hold your pain while you're responding positively to your partner's pain. That's the end state. So there's a lot of stages between those.
So the awareness has to come from working with a professional to be aware of yourself.
And your weekend retreat, when's your next weekend retreat?
In 2 weeks, actually. It's in Atlanta on the 22nd through, 22nd through 24th.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'll be in...
we're only taking 3 people. So
wow. 3 couples or 3 people?
No, just 3 people. It can be a couple. We also offer just a private day for a person or a couple as well.
It's very intense work, and we spend hours with each person, very specifically on the depths of these types of issues. Yeah.
So this is kind of like an act of love, of giving back, because for you, I mean, so I've gone to retreats and that work on this topic that have 50, 60 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not talking. We actually have them act it out and work it out emotionally.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot to that. That's a whole nother show.
It's a 4-hour process per person, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Deep process.
Of their entire childhood and life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how did you create? Did you go to different retreats and then you take out what you liked from it, or did this come from you?
Like hers was core. She came up with core emotional therapy. I kind of came up with this technique that she greatly enhanced. That because I first co-led a retreat 30 years ago, 25 years ago, actually.
Doug's trained and
I've been trained in all kinds of experiential therapies, and Alicia's done probably more than I have.
I did
as a
4
client.
years of every month. I did experiential.
And then we started just working together, and this just came out naturally. And Elicia holds the space and participates, and we both. It's just a smooth, intuitive flow for whatever the client needs, and we know it's the most effective and efficient way.
The shifts happen immediately,
and just
dynamics change immediately.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I'm not going to say the dates on the air, because once we do that, then we date ourselves.
Well, ongoing. We offer them every month.
We always have them. So the next one's coming up.
Okay. Oh, so we have 30 seconds left before we get on the air. This is fascinating. I don't know if we can even cover all this.
When you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373.
I just typed it.
Once again.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal to learn from everyone. Go through life with childlike wonder, not childish. I say that all the time. Childlike wonder is, let me learn more. I'll consider that. I am curious. Childish is what we are talking about today with the wounded child within, the one that throws the tantrums all the time, and we don't know why we're pushing people away. And it's a reaction to patterns that we learned when we were children. And so that's what we're talking today with Elicia and Dr. Doug Miller. And so I want to encourage you that we can continue this conversation on and off the air. By the way, we're having some deeper conversations off the air that you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click onto that YouTube video, and if you subscribe to YouTube, those videos will get sent to you, to your email, your iPhones, your phones and tablets. And also, at whenyouneedafriend.com. If you subscribe there, all the shows, all the information, you'll know everything that's happening before anybody else. You are the VIP, my VIF, very important friend. And so I've got to create a new terminology here. Okay, so when you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, this is where we take 100% responsibility for our life, for the life that we've created. And guess what? If we create everything in our life and we're responsible for everything that we create, then we can uncreate it. We can choose to do whatever it is that we want in our lives. And so if you're ready for this new truth, join us at whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, I ask you to play around, be playful. So click on the YouTube video, subscribe there, check out my social media, like me there, check out my on-demand podcast, like me there, or subscribe there. I don't know what you do there. And then also you can call. Even today, if you have any questions and this is resonating with you, you can call 407-373-5959. We all have a child within. It's not about shame, blame, fault, and duty. It's about empowerment and freedom. And if you have any questions, 407-373-5959. So today we have Elicia Miller, who is the creator of this inner core work that we're talking about, is core emotional healing. And then Doug is a transpersonal psychologist, so a licensed clinical transpersonal psychologist. And so the two of them work together at these workshops, and you can go to, it's eliciamiller.com. And I know I have Doug's.
With an E.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's Elicia, Elicia. So I was saying, it sounds like Elicia, but it's Elicia. And so I want to encourage you to go to the websites and learn a little bit more. So we're talking about the wounded child. Now what? So we've determined that we have a wounded child. And we were talking off the air, is like, how do you know that these spiraling conversations with your mate? Because it's really easy to say, there's something wrong with you. But what we're talking here today is, what can I do to help me, right? Elicia, why don't you start with that one?
Yes. So I think we were talking earlier about how can you tell when it's coming from your wounded child?
Yes.
You know, so the way you can tell is when it's so intense, like you feel kind of like altered, and there's a lot of blaming the other person for your hurt, and without any awareness of what you're doing or what you've done, or played a part in it. So I think, the first step is really to understand these reactions and these hurts and where they come from, and to work with someone to do that, because we cannot see our own stuff because we've protected it our whole lives.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Doug, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. So you're in one of these situations when there are three kinds of reactions. There's anger, there's disconnection, and this what we call, dissociation or numbing out. So if you're either, all three of those create distance between you and your partner. The anger pushes the partner away. You both end up angry and hurt, and you don't feel close. You may just disconnect, which is a more passive way. You may walk away and you ignore it, and you don't process things through. Or you might kind of be there and just start focusing on the TV or looking at your phone. And when any of those three things are occurring, there's a break in the connection in the relationship that leaves something unprocessed, unworked through. And when we keep repeating this over and over is when you really enter into some pretty significant relationship problems over the years. So those are the indications. But the one we've tended to focus on here has been the kind of angry one, and we've had a lot of that, and most people have. And it's like the inner child. You're arguing about something, but what the inner child wants to say is, I want this, but you're not saying that.
What is this? But what is this, Doug? What is it?
It's some vulnerable need that's not getting met. Like, I just want you to listen to me about this issue. I don't need you to fix me. I need you just to listen to me. Or
don't tell me
when you this is one of my triggers. That's when you tell me what to do so much, it makes me feel stupid because my family told me what to do and it made me feel stupid. So I had to get a freaking PhD
to figure that one out.
to not feel, but when you tell me so much, and so I would get like angry, like she would just be trying to help and support me. And then I'd come back with angry. And then what would happen for her, because her dad had anger problems, she would be like, oh, you're scaring me. And I'm like, wait, I just got a little pissed. But she would withdraw. And then I'd feel abandoned, which is a whole nother bag of issues.
And I would feel like he wasn't caring about how I felt because I was hurt.
We were
scared.
off and running. We were so deep in a hole by that point. But what happened is just step by step, being able to make those more vulnerable statements or come back later. And it was like, what did I really want to say? Like, come back later, say, this didn't go right. What could I have said different? That's another way to handle it. Like, you take the time out or you let some time go by. Sometimes it took me 2 days, I guess, because I'm a guy, or, a day. And the next day I'd be like, geez, I really, or she would bring it up. I'm like, I know this is really what I wanted to say. And then you're coming from that vulnerability. Like, it really hurt me and I felt stupid and I reacted. And then you're starting to heal. That's where the healing is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elicia, would you like to add to?
Yeah, I would. It's also comes from a lot of times pushing away support, because as a child, support wasn't safe. Like, the support that we needed wasn't there, or it wasn't what, or it hurt us.
Yeah.
So how we were, with our parents hurt us. And so that creates that protection we were talking about earlier of pushing away. So even if someone is loving you or helping you, there's an automatic reaction to push away because you're so used to taking care of yourself alone.
Sure.
So that's the thing that happens. So a part of healing the wounded child is to also receive support, and ask for support.
Well, isn't that true? And I was just talking to a really, really good friend of mine that I was saying, I'm a giver and she's a giver as well. But the worst thing we can do as givers is not allow others to give to us.
Yes.
And it's actually so important to be able to receive. And that could be hard for people that are constantly giving and only thinking that their value is just giving and not understanding. Doug, would you like to add to that?
In fact, I just wrote a blog. My last blog was on it was published in the Good Men Project. It's more difficult to receive than to give love, because when you're receiving, you're putting yourself in the vulnerable position of relying on the other person. It's so easy to be give. I'm taking care of everyone. Look at me. I'm so great. But when you stop and have to put yourself in, like, am I going to be loved?
Yeah.
That's real vulnerability. I love what you said. This is the underestimated 50% that's never talked about, because everyone's like, I'm so loving, but it's like, I'm so capable of receiving love. Like that, if you can do that, you're in the game all the way.
Well, in your workshops, you're talking about your workshops as being experiential. And that is how I became a life coach, is going through these experiential workshops so that I could feel what other people were feeling, so I could understand and experience, how I played as a child, how, I handle conflict as an adult, and some of these secret messages that I received that I now talk about so that I can help others. And I remember, being on your show with Robert, because Robert and I were on your show on the Intimacy Hour, and we talked about these timeouts. With Robert and I, one of the things that was very difficult for me is I saw my family, my mom and dad, never resolve. They only argued, and then they were happy. It's like, I never saw their resolution. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Swept it under the rug. And to me, I did not want that. What I wanted was to resolve. And my husband was, well, I'm not going to talk about this right now. I need to process, and I didn't understand that. Coming to understand how people process is so important. So not only did we have a timeout, but we have a time in. And we're going to continue our conversation when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We need a timeout right now. I'm right here waiting for you. No, but that was so important and crucial.
Great. That's so great. Not just a time out, but a time in. Right on. Yeah.
Yeah. Time in. And so Robert would, he would do things like, not talk to me. And that is a feeling of abandonment. Yeah. And after when I met him, my ex-husband had abandoned not only me, but the kids. I didn't care about me. I just wanted to protect my kids. And so every time he would do that, I was reliving that abandonment issue.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't get to dissect, and why it's so important that we understand, oh, I'm dealing with my feelings of abandonment. Now I can, now it doesn't hold a grip over me.
Take care of yourself during that time out. Like you don't have, you're not, you can say you're okay, you're safe to your child who has those fears of abandonment.
Yeah. And we might just need acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah. I'm not leaving you.
Yeah. Yeah. We just need affirmations, What would you say, Dad?
Part of Alicia's work and our work is teaching people to give to themselves, to take care of that inner child themselves. Mm-hmm. So that during those times, well, what's going on? Checking in. I'm here for you. I'm going to take care of you. So then when you go back to the partner, you're not relying on them to give you all that stuff you didn't get, but you're able to ask for it very directly and calmly. And if they miss it the first time, you have the courage to hang in there and say, wait a minute, you didn't quite hear what I said, or I still feel like you're not getting it, and ask again. That's when you're so close to you're like 90% there when you can do that. I mean, if you
Yeah, the last time, I don't know if we talked about this the last time we were on your show, which is, we also were presenters for Marriage Encounter. And Marriage Encounter, that we talk about feelings, not about the situation, how it made me feel, as opposed to, and then we give the feeling a number from 1 to 10, a color, a taste, a smell, another experience that had that same color, taste, and smell. And so it's really a wonderful. It
puts you in the experience. Oh, nice.
That's right. And so we learn to write love letters to one another about a topic. And that topic might feel, abandonment, or it might be, or like when I wanted him to go through the same program when I was going through, before I became a life coach, I went through the program myself, as, probably the stuff that, but Robert just did not. He just dug in his heels, and Robert would follow me into a volcano. I mean, that he does everything, that I wanted to do. And he just did not. And I remember one night going to bed and saying to him, of all the things you followed me in the volcano for, why not this one? Yeah. And he was afraid. Yeah. He was afraid that I was going to leave him if he didn't get it. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing the things we do.
And men will go into battle and let bullets whiz by their heads. It takes more courage.
Okay, this is our last dance. Can you believe it?
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn with one another. And today's teachers are Dr. Doug Miller and Elicia Miller. And we are talking about the wounded child within that we bring to every relationship, whether it's a spouse, a significant other, or even a friendship. Because we can do that with our friends. We get jealous. We think we're going to lose the friend. Whatever it is, we get to explore who we are to the best of our ability. And so off the air, we're having we're talking about our experiences as well with our inner child. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. And when you go to the website, not only subscribe there, but also subscribe on YouTube, because this YouTube video will be sent to you. Do it now. Don't do it later, because you won't do it later. Do it now. Okay, so now, we've talked about understanding the wounded child and the triggers that we can figure out the triggers. But how is it that when I want to discover my wounded child, but my husband doesn't want to go there, and I now want him to, I want to force him. And I was sharing about how my husband and I was going through a program, and he eventually, he dug in his heels, and eventually he chose to take that same program, go through that same program so that we could speak the same language. What about the people that are listening today that are saying, well, I want to learn how to do this, but I'll never get my spouse to do it? What do you say to that, Doug?
So obviously, this is a situation more that women run into with men. And one of the things women have an advantage of in their conditioning, there's all kinds of horrible conditioning that women go through. But one of the advantages that y'all have is the social and emotional part that's generally allowed and supported. And it's why y'all are talking and processing, and it's wonderful. Men are shamed in general for that same stuff, the vulnerability, needs, and emotionality. And that interferes with our deep relatedness. So we have a lot of women coming in saying, I just want deeper, blah, 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 and my husband won't do the work. So I do think there's a role for a spouse or a woman to play in these relationships if she's clear and not too codependent. If she can help, there's a line in the Doors song, woman, gotta love your man, take him by the hand, help him understand. And some of that great maternal nurturing energy is really important. Now the man has to want to, and this is where some of the rules of just good communication and good conflict resolution come in. Specifically, the 12-step program uses HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and what was it? There was an S that we came up with, but I forget what it is right now. But if you want to not be
stressed.
Stressed. Yeah, I think that is it. And we can also add intoxicated. You don't want to do any of this: hungry, angry, lonely, stressed, tired, intoxicated. You want to find a time when things are calm, and to bring this up and just take the baby steps, take the steps, bring the man in, because there's a whole layer of shame on top of that, and then maybe get him into a men's group or into therapy together, or
Sure. And Robert and I have done Marriage Encounter. We were presenters for that. It's a wonderful program that I highly recommend. But here's the deal: when you are with someone that wants to do this with you, it's great. But if you don't have someone that wants to do this work with you, do it anyway.
Yes.
You do it anyway, because you can love someone there to where you're at than to be resentful that you couldn't go there. No one holds a power over me. So I continued to do the work. And one of the things that Robert and I learned through Marriage Encounter was to communicate through feelings. This is how I felt. And I was sharing that, you give it a number, a color, a shape, a texture. And, you say, it was like smelling cookies on Christmas morning. The smell was like vanilla and, that kind of stuff. And it's something that you learn. But here's the thing: when you are not wanting that and the other person doesn't want it, then if I feel resentful that it kept me from growth, then I'm just blaming them. And all I want to do is blame and shame and fault again. And so in a situation like that, Elicia, the do it anyway, when you and Doug were going through your reconnection, you had just learned how to conquer all these demons that you didn't know what they were, and you were able to go to the root cause. At what point do you realize a relationship is toxic, or is a relationship worth working through it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lily. When the other person is willing to look at themselves is when it's worth going through it. It can be toxic if the other person, and so as you said, it's not that they have to do what you're doing, but as long as they're like, okay, just give me time, or I see that, or that they're willing to just look at it is healthy. It's going to be productive. If someone is not willing to look at themselves at all, and they just blame the other person, then that can be toxic.
Yeah. And we as women, we are fixers. Men sometimes can be fixers too. And so we don't need to fix the other person. We just need to heal ourselves, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk really quickly, because I want to get as much as we can from this, is how do we ask for what we need? Once we realize what the child needs, how do we ask so that we can be heard? Go ahead, Doug. I see you nodding your head.
You know, once you know what you need, and you can sit in that in a confident and clear manner, and it's not coming from a place of wounding, because like I said earlier, do some of the work on your own. The way the inner child works is to reparent yourself some first.
And give yourself what you need from that parent you didn't get.
Yes. So then you can go to the partner, and you already have like this adult part of yourself intact, and you say, honey, what I was needing, was a hug, and for you to say that it's okay for me to leave my clothes on the floor when I'm stressed out for a day. But you just got on me and yelled at me, and it just felt so horrible because I was already, and I just want a little support around that, and so you're not coming from the shamed child who's been hurt.
But Doug, I don't mean to interrupt, but I am. But does that sound like I'm explaining myself, or am I defending myself? Because the moment you say, well, I did this because you did that, could that spiral the relationship down again?
It could. But what if you're coming from a vulnerable place and you're saying, when I'm in this position and when you treat me this way, that makes me feel like I'm back in my home, and my mom's and my dad are criticizing me. And once we understand each other's triggers, see, if we don't understand, we're like two landmines moving over each other. We just trigger each other. But the vulnerability comes in. This happened to me, and I'm hurt, and this is a point of vulnerability for me. And then the spouse can go back and say, yes, and would you mind if I picked him up and just put him in the corner? Or would you, whatever the compromise is that has each partner get their need met. And sometimes one partner's needs get met and the other doesn't. I mean, that's the nature of life, right? So
in a situation like that, then it's time. It's so important that in a relationship, that because you guys kept working at it, because you knew that there was the love that was there. But sometimes as a wounded child, we kind of lull ourselves into justifying our behavior and saying, hey, I'm just going to walk away from this.
Yes.
But if you walk away too soon without doing the work, then you're just going to transfer it to somebody else, right, Elicia?
Exactly. Yep. Yes. Definitely.
And then the cycle continues. So the bottom line is we work on ourselves, not necessarily on somebody else's wounded child.
Exactly. And Lily, I want to just say my inner child loves your sock monkey.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, thank you both for being a part of the show today. I really do appreciate you. You guys can come back anytime. We can have this conversation again.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And to you, my listening and my viewing friends, we all have this inner child. It is time to explore and play. And remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. We got it. Okay, good. Okay, so now we can continue for just a little bit here. I know that you guys have, in the intimacy hour, you guys can go as deep as you want, but this is like the first time since 2015. I mean, with the work of Dr. Margaret Paul, we did like 3 days straight. And I had men calling me saying, I have no clue what you guys are talking about. No clue. Yeah. And I had women, say, oh my gosh, it's not me, it's my husband who has a wounded child. We all have this wounded child.
Yeah.
How did you get to that? How do you get to say, okay, I am only behaving this way because you made me behave that way. So those are the conversations, that the arguments that we have. How do you stop that pointing the finger when there's 3 more pointing back at you?
We always, like I said, recommend seeking help if there's repeated arguments that they can't resolve.
Yeah.
And then also taking that time when you know you're heated or triggered to be by yourself and journal. Like, what was it that triggered me? How did I feel? When else did I feel this way in my past? What does this remind me of? What do I need to ask the other person? What do I need to change this pattern? Yeah.
Is there any, you can go ahead, Doug. We're not on the air.
Oh, we're not on the air?
We're just talking.
Well, we're still recording. So just be careful. And thank you for the sock puppet. Yes. I don't know if you know Dr. Mona Lisa Scholes.
No.
She's a medical intuitive.
Okay.
And she is having an affair with the sock monkey.
Oh.
So the last time she came on, she told me that he left his little socks under her bed, and her mother got upset. And so now she has a restraining order against him. He could be pretty naughty.
He's a very debonair sock monkey.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't stop staring at him.
So go ahead, Doug. I didn't mean that.
Well, one of the ways people often don't, when you say inner child, people have all kinds of ideas, or they have no idea, and the inner child is like this adult conceptual model that helps to help people see themselves as a child, and puts them back into situations they were in as a child, so that they can begin to feel those feelings and get access to them. Then once you can start kind of categorizing, or just having some idea of what happened, and you have this kind of, it's an experiential kind of process of seeing the child who holds all these feelings. Then when you interact with your spouse and you're reacting, then you take some time alone, you can check in with that inner child, which is really this just repository of the memories and feelings and experiences, and are very much alive in us anyway, currently. And you can find which one's getting kind of pulled out and triggered. And that's where the real relational inner child work can start to happen.
Okay.
And when it's safe, when we do this work to heal our wounded inner child, it then becomes safe for us to express ourselves. Maybe it wasn't, we were shut down or shamed for our true expression. So there's also a true self, like the inner child, not the wounded part of us, is our true self that can be hiding as well. So as we heal the wounded child, our true self can come out. Yeah. And to come out to play, even our joy. So,
okay. Nice. Okay. So do you have ground rules when it comes to communication? Like, I was sharing with Robert and I, if he wants a timeout, or if I need a timeout, we'll say, it used to be like he wouldn't talk, and I would just I was reliving my parents' arguments, and I certainly, Robert and I made a decision. We didn't just want to be happy. Married. We want to be happily married.
Yes.
And I've told him, I've shared that I renew his contract every 6 months. And so then we decide, are we going to stay married another 6 months? Okay, we will. Okay. Sounds good. And so, we do this, but we had to learn some ground rules, and we had shared some of those ground rules on your show. But is there any ground rules when it comes to, let's say I'm bearing my soul to my significant other, and I get mocked, which brings me back into I don't feel safe anymore. So what are some of the ground rules that you guys have come up? So I'm going to put you on the hot seat, just like you put me and Robert on the hot seat. So what are some of the ground rules that we can maybe start to work with this process?
Well,
I think there's an initial stage where there needs to be more ground rules as you're working through those explosive triggers until you can get past those. So that when we were in that stage, and when other people are in that stage, we say when you're at a 4 or 5 of reactivity, 1 through 10, take a break. It's not going to be resolved as it's escalating. So take a break. and then come back when you're
So
calm.
that's self-monitoring.
So
Yes.
the time out and time in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
self-monitoring emotional intensity.
right. Yes.
Okay.
Like I'm recognizing when you're triggered, and then to take care of yourself. Oh, I'm triggered. I need a break. I'm not leaving you. I'm going to walk away and, process this.
And
Acknowledge
people
the
really-
child,
Yes.
acknowledge the other person's child, that their fears. So we now know what the other person's fears are, triggers are. And so when we need a break, we can say, I need a break. I'm not abandoning you.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back. Right. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. Yes.
And then after you've worked through all that, in our relationship, we don't need that anymore. We don't get to that place anymore, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can just stay there, and the other person is more free to say, you just gave me this look that didn't feel good when I said that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can say, oh, I did, sorry. So it's like we can bring up an awareness, and the other person will see it and hear it.
So prior to me saying, you gave me that look, we've already discussed the look and how the look makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's no explanation. There's no need to defend.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, this is how this look makes me feel.
This was the unconscious look that you give. Remember that?
Yeah. Robert, with Robert, it's like he breathes out his nose and he shakes his head. That is such a trigger. That was such a trigger for me.
Right.
Because that was disapproving.
Yes.
I have not enoughness talk,
Mm-hmm.
And so what did I do wrong now? What did I just say it? Just tell me. And again, I wanted to finish up with the time out, the time in, when he would just walk away and just, whenever he felt like coming back in. So what we discovered through our therapy, through our, that he would say, okay, we're spiraling downward. Let's talk tomorrow at 3:00. So you schedule a date to talk. And that way I'm not, is he ever going to come back? Is he ever going to, so it's amazing how by triggering, and you're right, you guys figured it out sooner than we did. It probably took us like maybe, we've been married 24 years, so maybe 23.
Yeah.
We
still are learning new things too, right?
We had the advantage of not having kids together. So we had that space, and we do this for a living. Yeah. So,
Does that ever get in the way? I remember Robert used to work as a consultant, and they paid him quite a bit of money to be a consultant. We're talking, companies like Dial and Clorox. And so he would come home and he'd try to fix everything. And I'd say, I don't need a consultant. I need a husband. Mm-hmm. Those things. Do you guys find yourself trying to psychoanalyze each other? I was like, I don't need for you to do this. I just need for you to listen.
It's like a way of life.
It is.
It's not like any
We're
issue.
Not putting on our work hat. We're always like this all the time, work or not. So it's
just a conscious relating, But I have a funny story, and you brought something up during the show about like make feeling statements, right? So I was working with this really tough couple. They ended up divorcing. And I was like, to the woman, can you just, what I'd like you to do, she was saying very disparaging things. I said, can you make feeling statements about how you feel? And she goes, yeah, I feel like he's a jerk. And I was like,
hey, she followed your rules. You have to be a little bit more specific, Doug.
Yeah.
Can you state your feelings without saying the word you?
Yeah, right.
I feel like you.
Yeah. And we know these things. We know that it's the I statements. We know that, the only person that we can change is ourselves. And when I coach people, they want to change the world. And I say, I think that's a wonderful idea, but let's start with you. Yeah. Let's start with yourself. Because when we start with ourselves, it's amazing how when our perspective changes, the world changes.
Yes. And wanting to change the world and focused on that is the ultimate codependent pattern.
Let me go back a little bit in time with that question. Like psychologists and mental health professionals, we have added layers of bull crap. We have
Look what I got.
Doo-doo.
We do that. Doo-doo, yeah. So like I could come up with like if I was being in a defensive mode, I could pull out some theory or some like, no, you're projecting your
that's when that
stuff.
happened. Yes.
Right. That's pretty much not happening anymore.
Right.
But
about
but
that.
again, the thing is, over time, I think I've begun to feel when I'm defensive, and then I know like there's probably some doo-doo about to come out if I talk, or like I need to stop and see what's the vulnerable thing. So like even that starts to become a recognized thing that maybe the adaptive child, or you can put it that way, just that I'm feeling defensive, and I'll even say like, can we talk about this tomorrow sometimes? Because I just don't want to, I'm either tired. I'm one of those hungry, angry, lonely, stupid.
That's a new acid for stupid, not stressed.
Facebooking.
And that's okay. Like, I don't, and then it's try to be respectful, and then she might have to wait. But, that's part of relating too. And I think especially a female-male dynamic, men sometimes need more time we got to go into the cave and get honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
It takes a little more time.
Yeah. So men go into caves. What do women do? What do we do, Elicia? If men go into, we go shopping. We start shooting.
In the past, I probably would have done a lot of things. Then I just started, in the past I would have gone shopping, I would have drank, I would have called a friend or tried to distract myself. But now, or when it was happening with us, I didn't do any of that. I would just start texting him to be understood.
Yeah, we would start doing that. And sometimes that would go to hell, but sometimes it would give us time to, there was always this love coming through, and like we weren't we have enough awareness that we wouldn't get too far gone. Like, I mean, it got real bad sometimes, but it didn't last for days.
Yeah. And I think that's the key there, that both of you, you said it, because I asked the question, where do you cut and go? And the important thing is that you see how Doug wants to work with you. And I see, Elicia, how you want to work with Doug. Same with Robert and I. I think that if Robert wasn't willing to throw himself into the volcano to follow me into the volcano, then it would not be the same. But after, we've been together 25 years, and there's a shift that happens when we totally feel this compassion for one another. We get that. And so when Robert does things, it used to be, it was a trigger that if I didn't feel heard and Robert just dismissed whatever it was, I would say, and he'd get upset, and then I'd argue back. Now, if I say something, if I have to say something, even if Robert doesn't like the message, I know that he goes to that cave and he processes it. So then he comes back and then we finish the conversation. Or this, if he says something to me, I'll process what he has to say, and then we come back together once we've processed each other's feelings. It's a lot different than when we first got married. And I had shared with you guys on your show, and I think we shared, I walked away from our marriage after 7 years. And it was for...
So that 7-year itch is real, huh?
Well, it wasn't so much that, it's that we had not even acknowledged our wounded. We didn't know what our fears and our triggers were. And it's interesting, those fears and triggers are what we continue to prove right.
That's it. Exactly. And you deprive yourself of the love that's potentially
it's there. It's a maladaptive.
That you want. The very thing you want.
Cyclical maladaptive pattern, right?
Yeah.
Cyclical maladaptive.
So if I feared that Robert was going to leave me, just like the guy before him, I'll push him away until he actually does leave me, and then I'll go, see, I told you he was going to leave me. I'm right about that.
All men are the same. Or I'm never going to get what I want.
And sure, you make it happen.
And not only that, there could be 99 wonderful salt of the earth men and one bad guy in a bar. And who are we going to go for? The one that's going to abandon us. We're going to go, and that's why it's so important that we work our own we just need to work this stuff
Yeah.
out.
Yes.
Because if not, then we're just going to bring
go to the bathroom and get it out.
We need to now get that.
I know.
For our show.
We gotta get it.
He's a cutie, isn't he?
Oh, that's our favorite.
It's our favorite
It's
emoji.
our favorite emoji, and we
call
each other doo-doo as an endearing term.
Like if there's a little anger or irritation, like we'll say, you're a
Or
doo-doo.
you're
And
being
you're like,
a
yeah,
doo-doo.
I know, I'm a dude. But we also say it just pure love.
And we also go, hey, doo-doo. And then we'll go, everyone's so doo-doo today. We say it all the time.
That could be very confusing. Is that a
I
good
know,
doo-doo or a bad doo-doo?
There's both kinds.
But we
it's all
get
how
it.
you say it.
We totally understand the tone and how it's said.
So at what point did you guys, are you guys at that place where you never have a blowout? Because even like they don't last very long for Robert and I. We do have our disagreements. We're human. And I think it's great to have these, disagreements and be able to push it all the way through to the end, to to resolution. With you guys, because you're doing the work all the time, do you feel the stress of having to resolve right away?
No. Like I said, we may say, let's deal with this another time. Or, we do very rarely have like something where maybe my anger or something goes up to a 7, which is too high, but it's only like a flash.
Yeah.
And then like, it's really clear what happened, and we could process it through either that then or like
we process things pretty
day.
immediately now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
unless like
wonderful.
We're wiped out or one of the,
And then, we can see like something's, maybe if he can't hear what I'm trying to say, I don't bring it up again until he can, it's just not a big deal.
If I'm going like this,
dude,
this doesn't talk.
Ground rule number 10.
I give him time.
If your partner's going like this.
Yeah. If you do that, then that means let's schedule another time. Okay. For those of you who want to learn more about Doug and Elicia Miller, you can go to eliciamiller.com or dougmillerphd.com. And the two, and if you want to learn about the core work that they're doing, and again, that is the core emotional healing. Then go to Elicia Miller. But you have a link to her website, right? Doug?
Yeah. So
Mine's
not
Doug Miller PhD.
I know, but on your Doug Miller PhD, you don't have a link to the core.
I don't think so.
That'd be good.
I'm about to redo my website, actually. But that's a good idea. Thank you.
But on EliciaMiller.com with an E is everything that even links to our joint website together. So the core emotional experiential work.
And since we're talking.
And I also have online workshops of like the process to heal your inner child on my website. Yeah. So there's a library of recorded workshops and there's live workshops. And
nice.
So I have a trigger one.
And I offer individual sessions on Zoom. And so we have a range of options and taking people where they're at. And we do think the experiential work is the big thing that really can push people through quickly. And we help people work to get there, and then follow up afterwards.
Very good. And so are there different, if I wanted to do your course online, is there a cost to that?
Yes. I have the recorded courses are $45 and the live courses are $100.
Very nice. Very nice.
And there are different topics that people can choose from or bundle them together. And I have a private inner child session that people can begin working with me through that session.
Very
and I
good.
connect them to their inner child, and it's really
the testimonials even just for the recorded course are like amazing. Sometimes people come back, you changed my life. She's really gifted, It's just
it is life-changing. It is life-changing when you find the roadmap.
Yes.
The roadmap to health and wellness. Because that ugly child within me, I refuse to look at, and I just looked at as like a shell, like a picture, like when you were a young teenager and you had a picture of your idol. That's how far you would go to look at that child. I don't know if that makes sense.
She wasn't ugly. She was just hurt. Gotcha. Got you with love.
Yeah, but
with love.
that's what I would look at, and I would say, and I shared, I think I shared this with you when we were together, that when I was 7 years old, my second grade teacher told me I would not amount to much.
Yes.
And when I was 10 years old, my grandmother said, if you stop learning how to play the piano, I'll stop loving you. Well, I stopped learning how to play the piano. So this unlovable, good for nothing, never amount to much, had to overcompensate
Yes.
and I was happy at every turn. Because I worked with it. I'm very adaptable, but you get to that place. I don't think either one of you is there, but once you get to that 50 mark,
he's way past that.
Yeah, I'm 57.
You look good, Doug.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So I'll give you one of these. Woohoo! It's a nice little cloud.
Oh, it feels
a
like
white
heaven.
Cloud. Yeah.
Kind of like heaven and like cotton balls. And
yes. Can you say balls?
Balls.
Bulls. Okay, well, guys, this is going
balls,
down. You like my balls? Oh, yeah. I was talking the other day with the Heel Tribe, and I was saying, I still can't say this. I can't say this, but doing a lot of health shows and nutrition and all that plays a key role in my show. And there's something I just cannot say on the air, which is, I soak my nuts. So when I talk about soaking my nuts, I still lose it. It's just, I don't care how old I am. I'm still got that little kid in me.
Yeah.
Some things are just funny, and that's just funny.
It is.
That's just funny. I remember asking my guests, well, how long do you soak your nuts for? And I'm like, oh my God! But I learned real quickly that he did soak his nuts, and he was not ashamed of it.
It's nice having clean soaked nuts,
Hey, they're really good. It eliminates the enzymes of the nuts.
Enzyme prohibitor.
Yeah, that decides, not enzymes, but the
prohibitor.
The toxins. Yeah. Yes. But anyway, thank you too for being on the show today. I'm glad that at no time Doug went blah, 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 because he didn't like what I was saying.
No, you really, the way I wanted to say this during the show, the way you set it up and the way you explained it is right on.
Yes.
Like totally.
Exactly.
You get this. What we're talking about.
It was so nice to talk with you about it, because you understand it as well as we do. So
well,
I was like, you just do the show.
Yeah. Well, I've when I learned about this inner child with Dr. Margaret Paul, I stopped and I said, this is crucial. And for those of you who want to go to watch that, it's deep in the archives at whenyouneedafriend.com. You just enter Margaret Paul. And I think we did 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row of figuring out about the wounded child and how to talk to the wounded child and getting back what you need. And, we have Teal Swan, who's done the completion process, and there's other, but being able to do the work, because everybody resonates differently, that you're ready to hear what they have to say.
That's right.
But I believe that this is crucial. It wasn't until Robert and I did this kind of work where we worked on ourselves, not on each other or as a couple. When we worked on ourselves, that's when we really were able to love each other at that next level.
Yeah, it's like if our parents should, have done this for us. So it was natural to do this, to be in touch and to know what we want. I mean, it's a lot of
how to change the patterns is to do this, especially if you have kids and young kids.
But how can you do it? How do you do that? Because, I've seen horrible parents create the most beautiful kids, and great parents create the most entitled pieces of it's
well, the more conscious parents are, though, and the more they deal with their own emotional wounds, then the less they're going to put it on their kids, and the more they can hold the space for their kids' emotions. And I've seen that with so many of my clients. They're able to be more conscious parents because of they're doing the work.
Very good. I like that. You know, it does make a difference. Raising your children in a conscious way, in a meaningful way, mindfully, is totally different than you're still reacting. Your child within you is raising the child outside of you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Your wounds are controlling the child so they don't trigger you.
Well, you know, they've also discovered, and yesterday I interviewed Dr. Cornelie. This is like the 5th time that she's been on the show, 4th time. She's like in the 5-timer club. Anyway, so she said that in our DNA, these conflicts go down 9 generations. They've been able to, so we got to nip this now for the generations after us. So important. It's so crucial.
I really think there could be some research that shows when a person works intensively on their trauma and reclaims themselves emotionally, that there's probably changes in the DNA. And I even wonder if it would affect their children, if their children are already alive. I think there's just more to this, that energetic piece.
They have done the work, Doug. Yes. They have done the work. And not only that, they're able to tell, let's say, for example, the work of Dr. Reiki Hammer, for example. I do a lot of shows on this, that if you get cancer or a disease on the left side of your body, like your left ovary, left breast, that has to do with the relationship of a woman.
With your
That's
mom.
unresolved issues.
We work with all that. We have a great resource if you're interested.
Awesome. And then the right side is a man. And so they've got it down to, you know, I just coached somebody that the mother felt responsible for her daughter's cervical cancer. But before I discovered that, because her mother was abused by her father and she didn't deal with it. And there was a bit of shame and all that. And she brought that. And now that her daughter has cervical cancer, I did not know that. So the daughter didn't know why. I said, do you know why you have cervical cancer? And she said, no, I don't. And of course the mother is feeling guilt, but I did not know that at the same time. So I brought her outside and I asked her the question, who raped you? And all of a sudden she just like boo-hooed in my arms. Like, I didn't realize that was it. And so now they're able to have this conversation. Mom, don't blame yourself. Now her mom has these, autoimmune, and she has the cervical cancer. And it was so beautiful to see the two of them acknowledge one another. Like, this isn't you. This has nothing to do with you passing anything to me. And it was great to see that kind of exchange. There is so much that it's so important that we deal with things so that our children don't have to. Honestly, yeah. But anyway, there is lots of. There is a camp with Dr. Melissa Schultz. She does a camp, and we're going to do a camp with some other medical intuitive in September. But basically, all this trauma gets stored in different, what we call a chakra healing centers in our body. So you guys know that stuff.
I mean, that's my tagline, is your symptoms are a gift, because the symptoms point to what we don't know that's in our unconscious. And so it's a gift. As long as we address it, then we get to experience the result of the healing of it.
I just want to get clarification. Like, I know that the epigenetics and about trauma and anxiety and other stuff, how it gets to DNA changes. Are you saying that there's been research that when the healing occurs, that they're showing a reversal of those changes?
What happens is, so what we inherit, we have our parents' DNA, the combination of generations before. Okay. So depending on our thoughts, the way we think, the way we drink, the way we exercise, the way we sleep, all of that can turn on that DNA. That emotional DNA can turn on. And then once you start resolving and changing some of the things, you can turn it off. I'm working with a young lady that thought that there's something wrong. She has all the classic symptoms of being molested as a child, all the classic symptoms, but she doesn't remember anything. She's tried different things, not with me. I don't do past regression therapy. I don't do any of that. But when I found out that it could have been transferred by the mother or the father, and I dug in and discovered the father had been molested. Come on.
There you go. Yeah. That's the
Definitely.
epigenetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if once she deals with that wound, maybe it's her father's wound that she needs to deal with. And
Right.
instead of her thinking, I think I was molested, but I just don't
Yeah.
remember it, and
Mhm.
say, you know what? It doesn't matter at this
Doesn't
point.
matter.
No,
I
it
just
doesn't.
need to heal it because it
Yeah,
could be from somebody else.
Yeah, we've done transgenerational work like that with people
you
and
have?
ourselves. It's just the feelings in there, and it doesn't matter. It gets to the point we don't even know where it came from. You know,
Yeah.
but it's like
Yeah.
you're saying. Exactly.
Well, awesome conversation, you
Yes.
two. And we
Yeah.
could probably talk
We
for
could.
ever and ever and ever. And so we need to continue this conversation. So I'm looking forward to going back to Georgia. I keep telling
Yes, it'd be so great.
I
to
keep
get
telling
together
Tim he's
again.
got to come up with some job for me up there. But anyway, thank you too. And again,
Yeah,
the
thank
websites
you.
are aliciamiller.com and dougmillerphd.com. And of course, whenyouneedafriend.com. I'm here for you when you need a friend. Thank you
You
so much,
are.
guys. And I look
Thank
forward to our
you,
next
Lillian.
conversation.